myself, about 4 hours. So, and I don't have the benefit of my notes, but I'll do my best to replicate what we did in Tucson back in January, which is the goal here today. And so, if I miss anything, Bill's not only a genius from a programming perspective, but he's a whiz with numbers, so he can keep me honest. So if I say a number and I look at you, you say the real number, and then we can keep things rolling. But also, this is going to be of most benefit to you if you guys ask questions. So we want you guys to go ahead and raise your hand or just speak up. We have a roving mic if we need it, but I think we can all hear one another. If for some reason you're too shy, or you just want to ask a question that maybe you don't think is fully appropriate, write it on a piece of paper, fold it up, give it to Kara, and then I'll read it aloud and we can answer it that way as well. But we want to, again, get to anything you guys can think of. And bear in mind, this presentation is really our 2018 year in review. So 10 of those 12 months were US-based Simpleview. The last two, of course, now are friends in the UK and in Norway. Next year, we'll do something very similar, but it'll be far more inclusive of all of us. You'll all be part of that music video at the front end. We'll celebrate our customer wins together and all that good stuff. But to give you some idea, just a little bit about me and then about the company. I was born and raised in Tucson, Arizona. In fact, this is a drone shot of where I went to high school, which you can now see out the window of our new office. Bill, Kevin, and several other Simpleview people actually went to the same high school. And I was a member of the 25th graduating class. My father, the guy on the right, was actually the first graduating class of that high school. He's probably the person where I got most of my attributes from. He was an extremely hardworking man, was a UPS driver, and in fact, as you may hear, actually funded the first iteration of Simpleview on a $16,000 loan, which allowed us to get our start. He passed away about 7 years ago, unfortunately, but was a huge influence on my life, as was my mom. Now, my dad probably only stood about 5'4", my mom all of 5 foot. And so we're a family of hobbits. I have 2 younger brothers. But I learned from my mom basically grit and determination. And while we were never really teased as kids, we were never able to use our size as an excuse. She never let us back down from a challenge. My dad, who was a state champion wrestler, would be the first one to say, hey, you don't solve fights with your fists, you solve problems with words. If someone's going to fight you, you just back away. My mom said, no, you punch him in the head. And so we grew up, obviously with those two things combined, a strong work ethic, as well as this fortitude and this grit, which has been shown to be one of the #1 driving factors of success in your life. We all get knocked down. It's how many times you get back up. You've all heard that before. But I think each one of us has had challenges in our lives and had to overcome them in some way or another. We have those challenges in business. We have those challenges in our home lives. But really, it's just a matter of how you persevere. Of course, travel. As a working class family as we were, we actually did travel quite a bit. But most of our vacations were car vacations. We camped. We actually had a ski boat when we were young. Water ski, jet ski, hiked, camped. Everything that we did was outdoors. And I wasn't able to take a trip or be on an airplane until I was in the 8th grade. My future problem-solving group actually won a state competition, which allowed me to travel to the University of Michigan for the first time. And I kind of caught the travel bug from there. I also worked as a kid. Since the age of 14, I've been continuously employed. Of course, as a teenager, especially maybe in the U.S., we want a car. It's the #1 thing that we strive for. But if I was going to have a car, I was going to have to work. And so at 14, I worked as a busboy, eventually became a waiter, and then had to also help put myself through college. And so in the story of Simpleview, there is a chapter, and it's the chapter where Bill, Scott Wood, and I all worked for a governmental accounting firm. I worked there as an intern while going to college, and later, in starting an IT division, hired Bill and Scott to help me grow that group. Now, we were tasked with building a division that did accounting software solutions, database-driven web development, and general network IT and consulting. The web side of the business actually grew quite quickly. We'll skip that part. And we started a division inside Heinfeld and Meach that was called HM Web. So I don't know if Richard stole the line from me or I stole the line from him, but we were a we'll-do-anything-for-money web development shop. So we worked for for-profits, nonprofits, e-commerce, you name it. Someone would come into the office, they'd say, hey, I saw this thing called eBay. Can I build something like that? I'd say, sure, $20,000. They'd say, hey, I saw this thing called Amazon. I want to start an online bookstore. Can I build one of those? Sure, $20,000. Everything, as Bill can attest to, from eBay to Amazon to a local governmental website would be $20,000. Now, luckily, that's us there in 2001. And at the time, the company was called 220 Solutions. There came a point at the accounting firm where we were not only building this small department, but we were also running all of the network operations. And Bill and I, mostly Bill, wrote the audit software that ran their audit practice. There came a day in 2001 where they came to me and said, hey, your division's losing money. I need you to let a few people go. We'd been thinking about going off on our own, but hadn't quite made that decision yet. And I said, well, hey, why don't we just start with me? Because I felt that with all the work we were doing for them, that our department wasn't really getting credit for, that our division actually was profitable. They just didn't see it that way. And so, again, with that loan from my dad, we started a company. It was called 220 Solutions. February 20th is the date that we went off on our own. It was kind of the Jerry Maguire moment. And so you'll see that from time to time in different things at Simpleview, is that number's kind of a recurring theme. And so if we were called 220 Solutions, then why are we now Simpleview? And part of that is because we met this guy, a man named Rich Reasons, who right around that same time that we were leaving the accounting firm, came to visit one of our mutual customers. We had built the website for the Tucson Convention and Visitors Bureau. I think very much like NVG had built the site for Visit Liverpool. It was our first ever foray into CVBs and DMOs. Rich was coming to pitch a new website through his company, CVB TV, and we were invited to that meeting as the incumbent. We sat in the room, listened to what he was talking about and what he was proposing, and pretty much said, well, you can go back to California. We already do all that. Lucky for us, he was really pitching kind of a vaporware type solution, and immediately phoned us back and said, hey, if you guys already have a lot of stuff for CVBs, I have a company that already works with them in a television capacity. Maybe we could work together. So for the next 5 years, we worked together on a handshake where we were CVB TV when we talked to DMOs and CVBs, and I was the director of information technology, I think, was my CVB title. When I was in Tucson, I was CEO of 220 Solutions. But as the business gravitated towards the CVB side, we decided that it would make sense to formally merge the two. Until then, we answered our phones, this is Ryan, because we didn't know if they were calling 220 Solutions or CVB TV. And so for a moment, we were actually called CVB TV /220 Solutions Inc. That didn't really roll off the tongue. There were people calling and saying, oh my God, did you hear CVB TV got bought by 220 Solutions? Oh my God, did you hear 220 Solutions got bought by CVB TV? And we were like, look, it's actually always been the same thing. But again, that didn't roll off the tongue real well, and so that's when we rebranded as Simpleview. It was a name that we came up with through work with an ad agency out of San Diego. They ran us through a long, extended process to ask us, if we were a car, what kind of car would we be? If we were a clothing brand, what clothing brand would we be? And in the end, they actually came back with 4 or 5 names that they liked. I think their favorite was one called Curious Griffin. And when we asked, well, why that? They said, well, most people don't know what a griffin is, and so they're curious. And we said, well, no, I think a lot of people do know what a griffin is. They also liked the name Method Hive, and we didn't want meth or hive in our name. And I think the third one was Black Box Interactive. And we didn't want to be named after the one thing that survives a plane crash.
And was there a fourth? Those are their top three. And, we left that meeting like, oh, man, what are we going to do? We need to figure out a name. And it actually turns out that Kevin Bate and I were off to train the Portland, Oregon CVB. And it's one of the few times in my work travel career that I actually took a little time to enjoy myself. And we were skiing. Kevin's much more fit than I am, as you could probably already tell. And so by midday, I'm sitting at the bottom of the lodge. He's still skiing. I'm looking up at the mountain. I think it's got to be easier than this. Why can't we think of something easy? What's another word for easy? Simple. And who knows, maybe the view inspired me, and so we became Simpleview. A lot of people ask why the name, so now you all know. There'll be a quiz at the end. But really, we wanted an empty vessel. We didn't want to be called something travel or XYZ tourism or George Media or anything like that. We wanted something that as we grew and as we expanded and as we added products and services, we could always fit it within that vessel. And so it's worked quite well for us. Probably 2 or 3 years later, we got around to our vision statement, which has not changed really in 13, 14 years, other than the second word. But our vision is to be and that's always capitalized, bold, and italic, but the global standard for integrated destination marketing solutions built on experience, leadership, and meaningful relationships. And as I go through our core values, you'll see the recurring themes of not only hard work, but experience leadership. We really want to invest in our staff to help you grow to your maximum potential. We've got a lot of programs in place that will start to trickle out and roll out to the rest of you in time. But also, it's about relationships for us. And so, those of you who are in sales know how important it is to form a good relationship, long before you ever make a sale. And oftentimes, if you lose a piece of business, customers will say it was price, or it was technology stack, or it was some random thing. But more often than not, it's the relationship that helps you to win or helps you to lose. And so we focus a lot on the relationships that we have, not only with our customers, but certainly with our staff. We also want to have that relationship extend to our customers' customers so that we're helping them to accomplish their goals in the eyes of the people they serve, which oftentimes are the constituency of either government or citizens as they try and bring travel to different destinations. And we also want to make sure that we're doing what we can to help support each of you in different life changes or family events that you may go through. And, with now, prior to this merger, 300 employees, we've been through a lot in 20 years. And so we have resources to help in those ways as well. So we want your time with Simpleview to be a relationship. We want it to be a meaningful part of your life, and we want to see you grow just as much as you contribute back to the organization. Which then is kind of part and parcel with our mission. It's to create an environment where caring for others, quality, productivity, and accountability drive profit, innovation, and service excellence. So you'll see a lot in this presentation that in addition to these, really kind of feel-good things, and it does feel good to be able to say them, there are things like productivity, accountability, and profit. And we as a company strive to be as transparent as we possibly can about the great and the good and the celebrations, but also about the challenges or the areas where we need to improve. And so it may be new to some of you. I don't know. I've not been here for the past 20 years. But we do share as much as we can about financials, about sales, about wins, about losses. And we'll see some of that. So kind of moving on and into core values, I forgot one thing. Those of you who do ask questions, our table has contributed their tickets. So if you ask a question, then you get additional tickets for the prize pack. So far, I'm keeping all of them. But if anyone asks a question, then we have those for you as well. Before I move ahead, does anybody have any questions so far? Yeah. That's a question. I don't know, judges? Oh, they say, yeah. go. Does anybody have a better question? She already pulled that one. So. All right, well, don't be shy. I'll just keep going. But yeah, like I say, let's try and make this interactive. Otherwise, I'm up here for 4 straight hours all by myself. But core values, we talked about hard work. The way that we expanded upon that was to say, effort will never be compromised. If nothing else, we work hard and trust that those around us are doing their level best. In our last staff meeting, we talked about the work that the team had done to recover from the server outages. Phenomenal example of hard work. But I think, as important as that is, one of the main things I think that we see ourselves tripping on from time to time is this trust that those around us are doing their level best. Number one, if everyone is doing their best, then we're all going to rise together. But trusting that someone is a different thing. That means that even if someone stumbles, even if they mess up, then you recognize that they weren't doing it on purpose, and that we all fail from time to time, and that it's our job to help that person to do better the next time around. And it also, in a deeper way, it goes to the ideas of like gossiping or infighting or one department talking trash about another department. Again, that never happens at Simpleview, ever. So, no, it does. But we try and reinforce it to keep the politics and all those things as minimized as humanly possible. But again, hard work is it's our number one core value. And if you do this, then I don't care what you know. You can learn the other things. But effort is really the key component to being successful here. In as much as effort is necessary, these are just some statistics. In 2017, we had 82 hours of time off taken on average. In 2018, that number went up to 104, which was 3 days more per year. We do a biannual survey of all staff, and the people who either agreed or strongly agreed with the statement that Simpleview values work-life balance, that number saw a 7% increase. So, if you do 104 divided by an 8-hour day, it's about 2.5 weeks. Yeah. So people aren't taking a massive amount of time off, but we're happy to see that they're taking advantage of the benefit, at least to that extent. Now, again, we'll have to meld our policies together, but in addition to that, we have a lot of just holiday vacation. We take a week off between Christmas and New Year's. We have all the U.S. holidays. We'll then have all the European and UK holidays. And so with all of that, we want to make sure that people are working extremely hard, but also taking the time they need to recharge so that they can give their best effort at all times. The second one is working smart. We use objective metrics to make good decisions, take the time to plan and think, and constantly improve our processes. So this is a goal that we can never fully achieve. We'll talk later in the day about how making better data-driven decisions is, again, part of an evolution that we continue to go through. But ultimately, we want to make sure that we take time to have events like this, to have meetings like the one that we'll have tomorrow. It doesn't mean that every day should be a meeting, because that can get old pretty quickly. But it does mean that we should take the time to think ahead and to plan. When you set those plans and you set those targets and you set those goals, somehow you have a way of magically achieving them. If you never set them or never think about where you're going or how you're going to get there, then the opposite is generally true. Some things that in that vein we set out to achieve years ago, and one of the ways that we reinforce working smart is that we have a number of personal educational development opportunities. In fact, for those of you who don't know this yet, or we haven't rolled it out, we offer $2,500 in personal education development credit to every single employee at Simpleview. It can be used in almost any way that you like, as long as you can apply it to your job. So someone who is a graphic designer certainly should take graphic design courses or attend conferences, but they could also decide they want to learn more about programming. A programmer could decide that they want to learn more about graphic design. If you can at least loosely correlate it to your job or the job of those around you, then it counts. One change that we made this past year is that $2,500 used to include travel, room and board. We took that out just because we did see some people needing to take a highly valuable educational event in Hawaii. I'm not joking. And so, we didn't change the dollar amount, but we want to make sure that you have some skin in the game as well. So, if it's a train ride to London and a hotel room, that's on you. It might encourage you to partner up with some colleagues to go to that training, but the rest of it is on us. We also, in doing that, added this program called LinkedIn Learning. And as managers, I've found it that most of the time, someone says that they want to get some PED or some education around something. We're not going to discourage the conferences. We want you to do those things or to get certifications. But this LinkedIn Learning platform has hundreds of thousands of hours of video-based training on almost any topic you can think of. And it's everything from managerial skills to hardcore programming stuff. And so that'll become available to each of you as well. We added it this past year. Our brainery and certification classes, for the core Simpleview products, we created a certification program about a year ago that's available not only to our customers, but also to our staff. So again, it's an online learning-based curriculum that has in-video quizzing that culminates in a certification exam. When we first rolled it out, one of our customers who was kind of a know-it-all, she would constantly tell us how our software was supposed to work. She took the first certification course and actually failed. It was good because she was, I guess, self-aware enough to say, look, I thought I knew everything about your software. Clearly I don't. I have more I need to learn. But it also gives our customers, as well as our staff, an ability to demonstrate their knowledge about our product. So again, a new tool that we've added in the vein of working smart and learning. And then we hold what we call Hacktoberfest. It's a Simpleview hackathon in October where teams form organically. We set a topic, whether it was AI 2 years ago. What was the topic this past year? Yeah, community. And then each team builds a project over the course of 48 hours. Those projects are then presented. So, the teams can involve a salesperson, a designer, programmers, etc. And whatever form they can bring it to fruition, it doesn't have to be fully functional at the end of 48 hours. That's then judged. And so last year we had several different groups create apps for. One example was learning each other's names. It was kind of a flip card type naming, quizzing tool that you could go through while you were sitting in line at the airport or whatever else. Another group created a points-based app for engaging one another in different outside activities, things like that. So we'll look forward to engaging you guys in that, and it'd be cool to even have some transcontinental teams working on projects together as well. Again, these are just examples. You guys, we expect to have your own celebrations and your own events and do your own things. But as you see ours floating out there, then bear in mind that you guys can organize and take part in them as well, so that we're all doing different things together. The next core value that we have is people. We choose to work with friendly, talented people who value diversity and teamwork, reinforced by professional development opportunities and appropriate recognition and rewards. Again, we can all read, but to expand upon that further, talented is super important. Friendly may be more important. And so we don't want to work with jerks. Again, that's probably the second place an employee gets tripped up is you could be the most brilliant jerk in the world. You're not going to work at Simpleview for very long. It's something that we work hard to reinforce and to suss out of the organization. Now, that can be a matter of opinion. You may all think I'm a jerk. But we'll work with people as well. some people aren't born with people skills, right? But we can help people to get better at working with one another, and oftentimes it takes someone reaching out to help that person feel more a part of the group. The other one is diversity. I think if you looked at, the 300 staff that we have, and I know about 6 or 7 of you were out in Tucson, if you took any demographic, short of the fact that the company was founded by 4 white males, that seeded it, obviously, in a certain way. But if you took any other sort of diversity metric and looked at Simpleview as a whole, I would venture to guess that we double the national averages or statistics in almost every category. So our staff is now nearly 50% female, which is awesome. We have more and more females on our leadership team. We have people of every race, gender, sexual orientation, religion you can name. And again, I would venture to guess at least twice the quantity of national averages. And so, and I would say it's not something that we do because we're so forward-thinking or open-minded. It's because I just don't care. And that's not a really nice way to say it, but we're a meritocracy. And so if you do your job and you do it extremely well, and we want you to celebrate all the things that make us all different, but at the end of the day, it's about how you perform that matters. And it may sound like a very cold way of saying it, but it also tends to work itself out. I think that's what we're all striving for anyway. And so it's a big part of this people statement. Don't be a jerk, value diversity, and learn and grow over time. Again, we're actively staffing. Our retention rates as a company are well above industry averages. Opportunity for professional growth in our survey increased by 14%, and our managers' overall approval rates increased between 6 and 7% across the board. So even our managers are 6% less jerks than they were 6 months ago. So we're making progress. Yeah. There you go. Communication. Again, open, honest, professional, constructive communication. This goes back to the people thing. And timely communication allows us to challenge and support each other. So, again, open, honest, professional, and constructive. It does not mean that you can never say anything that might hurt someone's feelings. Hurting someone's feelings is fine as long as you're doing it constructively, right? And so, we want to have those, heated debates about things. Again, that's totally fine. But, if it reaches a point that it's not, helpful or constructive, then that's where the line is crossed. So, the more communication, the better. And we all make ourselves completely available to every single one of you. So, you'll all have my email address. We have an employee suggestion box. That was once anonymous, but now you do have to submit your name if you want to submit something to the suggestion box. But that's also not meant as the complaint department. We actually reward people for suggestions because we want to get your ideas and we want to implement them. Most of them end up being things that benefit staff, but we want to hear about things that benefit customers, about new product ideas, et cetera, et cetera. So this is not just communication down, but it's communication up and across and everything else as well. Ways that we improved upon this just in the past year. Again, survey says we did better, both in communication between departments, but also in team meetings being valuable. And then again, our manager assessment saw some impressive increases. And then finally, kind of going back to our mission, we maintain a casual, fun, safe, and engaging work environment where employees want to stay, grow, and contribute their knowledge, experience, and expertise. So for those of you who've been to the Tucson office, it's a new environment for us. I'll touch on this. But again, in as much as our stories are similar, even the space that we work in is very similar. We've moved to bench seating, very much like the Liverpool office. I think even the colors on the walls are very similar. But, from an environment perspective, there's the physical environment, but there are also the things that we do to, again, kind of try and make it fun and enjoy the time that we spend there. So we have a committee, a social committee. We probably put on some form of social event at least once a quarter. Every time we do, then we'll expect you guys to as well. If you choose not to, we won't punish you, but we try and, go to, we'll generally have, our retreats. We'll have a movie day in the summer where, like, say, afternoon, we all just check out and go see Mission Impossible last year. We'll have a picnic in October, and then, of course, over Christmas break, we all take a week off. But, we want to do those things so that you're all interacting with each other more and that we have a chance to interact with you. We have other kind of organic events, so people took part in a bar crawl, and then we had what we called Barber Stock Sip and Learn. So after we added a new partner in a company called Barber Stock out of Vancouver, they trained us on their product, and we drank wine and beer while they were doing it. So those are the kinds of things that we want to do, just again, to make it lighthearted and fun. I mean, if you think about it, we spend the majority of our waking hours at work. So it might as well be fun. But, again, with the confine around the fact that we also work hard and we have a lot to do. I hate the phrase work hard, play hard. And I think we even have it in this picture, a foosball table. I hate ping pong tables and foosball tables and video games in software development companies. I've been in some where they have those things, but they really don't allow or expect anyone to use them. They're just there for recruiting purposes. We're a little more overt about the fact that, hard work is number one, and then we want to do everything we can to make it fun. Now, that isn't to say that people haven't had a video game night at the office or that we haven't had a ping pong challenge. Actually, I got beat by Owen last week in an after-work event. But again, yeah. He beat me soundly. But again, we want to create those social opportunities for us to get together. But again, they aren't mandatory. So if there's, a happy hour at 5 on a Friday and you would rather go spend time with your family, just go. It's not like we're forcing you to be at these things either. And we expect you guys to create your own unique events or your own unique ways of collaborating with one another inside and outside the office. And so, with that, I'm now going to go into our 2018 year in review. Does anyone have questions about mission, vision, core values, history? I was an Eagle Scout, didn't just wear the uniform. Anything else? Yeah. No questions. You're still in the... Oh, yes.
What makes you most proud of being part of the Simpleview family?
I think, again, it's now... I did the math because I recently turned 44, and I think in 3 years I will have been at Simpleview half my life. And the thing I'm most proud of isn't like the growth or all the customer logos, although we'll talk a lot about this. But it's really just in seeing the team and seeing people grow. I mean, some of the people we employ, we started when I was a kid, but I've seen them grow really from kids to adults. And really just the teams that we've put together is what makes me most proud. So, yeah. There you are.
Yeah, that's great.
All right. Oh, I'm going to keep these in my hand in case there are more questions. All right. Looking around. No one looks like... Oh, yeah. Knew it.
Okay, the little logo on the end, where did that come from?
Yeah. Great question. We actually had a long meeting about that just recently. But it was once we named it Simpleview, we then had more or less a logo or mark competition. And this came from, it's far more common than I had thought when we first chose it. I think it may be even a Wiccan symbol of some kind. But it's really the overlay of our CMS, CRM, or what you guys refer to as DMS, and digital marketing services. So if you drew 3 circles, then that's the intersection of those circles. And we used to refer to the middle dot as our digital nerve center. We've not done that in a very long time, nor do we intend to start again. But it's really that idea. And interestingly, when we were going through our last private equity deal, we met a PE firm who said that he has for several years looked for a company that was a combination of a CMS, a CRM, and a marketing automation platform. And it was like, wow, we spent 20 years building that for you. Now, they didn't ultimately end up being the ones who invested in us, but that's the idea, is getting all those things to work together. So, yeah, good question. All right. Where's your name again? All right. There you are. So you keep one and put one in the bucket, I guess. All right. Cool. All right, so I'm halfway to a break. I'm going to drink some water real quick. Did I not bring my coffee up with me? Yeah. Thank you. And if I lose my voice, Bill's going to finish the presentation for me. So. It's happened before. Yeah, so 2018 year in review. There was not a more frenetic year in Simpleview's history than last year. So several things happened. We really accelerated a joint venture, not a joint venture so much as a strategic partnership with a company called Acton. So much like you guys, you can send emails directly out of your DMS. We're able to send emails directly out of our CRM to members, partners, consumer contacts, or meeting planners. But Acton is fully dedicated to the idea of marketing automation. So more than just email, batch, and blast, it's taking the interactions that different users have on a website, creating an anonymous profile of those people, and then being able to send triggered messages to them when they're at the right spot within a purchasing funnel or a trip planning funnel. And so we've sold a lot more Acton integrations, and we've done a lot more work in terms of incorporating that directly into our system. And you guys will probably hear more about that tomorrow and in the days to come. We also changed private equity firms. Up until about 6 years ago, the company was wholly owned by, again, myself, Bill, Scott, and Rich, having started from nothing. You'll see in a moment that after about 13 years, I guess, of continuous profitable growth, we set about finding a private equity firm to take some of our risk off the table in the form of cash that we invested in other ways, but also give us an opportunity to invest more in the business and to grow in all these other ways you see here. So we set about that process like 6 years ago, found a PE firm in a company called the Ridgemont Group out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and then after 5 years, they were ready to see their return be paid back, and so we set out again to find a new private equity company. That process started probably in November of 2017 and was completed in June of 2018. Now, what that meant is that we physically met and spoke with probably 50 different private equity firms all over the United States, and 16 of them put in bids to buy out the Ridgemont piece. Of those, we had 8 who took us to final diligence, in other words, full tech diligence, full legal diligence, and full finance diligence, which Sue can appreciate because you guys got to go through it once. And then ended up with a group called the Jordan Company based out of New York. They're a $3 billion fund. We are the first tech investment that they've ever made, which we said we would never do again because Ridgemont, we were their first tech investment. However, a brilliant group of people who ended up being the people that we liked the best, and they were also willing to pay the most. So with Jordan's backing, there's literally nothing that we can't do. And so a huge effort, but a great group to work with. In fact, that deal was closed while we had our annual summit in Phoenix. So in May, we will bring about 800 of our customers to Phoenix for 3 days of education, training, bonding, etc. It's something that we started about 13 years ago. I think the first one had 20 or 30 customers at it, but I call it our Kool-Aid drinking festival. So it's really, customers come there knowing that we're going to have great keynote speakers, and exciting things to share. But ultimately, it's the best cross-sell, upsell opportunity we have because they get to see all the new things that we're working on. They get to interact with their peers and find out, oh, well, you're doing that. How come we don't have that? Well, you should. And then, account services there is to sweep up all the leads that come out of that. But really, it's also just to educate our customers more, which makes them easier to support and helps them to get more out of our platforms. We also, at the very tail end of 17, but rolling into 18, acquired a company called Barberstock out of Vancouver. So about 5 employees. They have a digital asset management platform, so everything from photography to video. We're working on re-engineering that platform so that all of that stuff is sort of auto-tagged on the fly, much the way Google Images are, and so that it can be deployed, not only to websites, but also to members of the press who might want to download a certain video clip or image to use in PR. And on that point, I should also add that this isn't our first foray into remote offices. So, long before Barberstock, we had acquired a competitor in a company called New Media Gateway, who had offices in Dallas, and then Software Management Inc., who was a competitor on the CRM side. They've now been with us for about 6 years, something like that. Yeah. They have offices in Pittsburgh, and so we have about 25 staff over there. So we've been remote for a long time. We just hadn't necessarily been international. I should add that we're learning as we go in all of this, and so for the Pittsburgh folks, they did come to our retreat, or actually they came to Summit. I don't think they came to retreat right away, but I've now been to the Liverpool office more times than the Pittsburgh office, so we've got that going for us. But we continue to learn how to gain momentum in these integrations. Barberstock's a good example of a recent one. We also rolled out our Map Publisher product. So sort of in addition to Google Maps within listings or itinerary builders, this is really a back office tool to allow perhaps a meeting planner or a festival organizer to plot different things on a map and create online versions as well as high-resolution printable versions. At the same time, we opened a new office in Tucson, so about 41,000 square feet, housing about 175 of our 350 employees. We achieved GDPR compliance across all of our products last year. We added, and I spoke to this the last time, another strategic partnership with a company called AudioEye, which I think is a great cross-sell, upsell opportunity into the tourism media customer base. But it basically is a plugin that we can sell that not only makes a site more accessible for people with disabilities, but also provides sort of a certification path for those groups. And so what's happening in the U.S. right now is because of our ADA laws, you have people who are just filing blanket lawsuits against people who run websites. There was a beach destination in Florida that was recently sued. Beyonce's website they were recently sued because there is a requirement that these websites be handicap accessible. Now, in my view, this product probably doesn't do enough, but the fact that it does something and puts them on a compliance path sends the lawyers running another direction because there are easier targets out there for them. So again, something that we think has a lot of legs in terms of cross-selling and upselling our existing customer base. We launched a new product called our Partner Marketplace. It lives inside of our extranet. So if a DMO or CVB is selling advertising, or let's say they're doing a special promotion around Restaurant Week, it allows the partner, when they're logging into the extranet, to be presented with an opportunity to do a co-op advertisement in some way, and they can transact inside the extranet for whatever that opportunity might be. There's this company called Tourism Media so we'll talk more about that. But obviously, at the back half of the year, we combined all three entities together. You guys know who you are, and we've got slides on it. But Jackrabbit Zarista is a company that actually was closed the same day as you guys. And so when Richard and I talk about the fact that we went from 250 staff in 600 destinations to 350 staff in 900 destinations, that's a result of 50 or so here, but also 50 at Jackrabbit and their customer base that didn't overlap with ours. And what Jackrabbit does is they have a hotel referral engine, so they're gathering rates and availability data from about 200 property management systems, and then we deploy that on our websites in the form of a call to action for a referral. The booking actually happens on the hotel property's website, not inside of Jackrabbit. I think there's a lot of synergies probably between GuestLink that I still have yet to fully appreciate or understand, and so I'll look forward to figuring out how those pieces are going to fit together in the future. But Jackrabbit also came with a company, I will not quiz you on this, I swear, called Zarista, who sells apps to meeting planners. And so they even have an office just outside of London. And so in addition to this group, we have about 5 staff in London through the Jackrabbit Zarista acquisition. So that's a mouthful. And then finally, 2 Synergize is really a 2-person shop, and I'll speak more about that in a moment. But, for 2018, suffice it to say, it was a very, very busy year. Getting into financials real quickly, this does not include all you guys in the room, but for 2018, we as Simpleview set a goal of $45 million in revenue and $10 million in EBITDA. For those not familiar with that term, it's earnings before interest, depreciation, taxes, and amortization. And so not all 8.3 million, went into a bank because we had to pay taxes and we had to do a lot of other things with it. But it's the measure of profit that almost every company uses across the world in one form or another. And although we were short of our goal, we continued to grow in the way that we had anticipated. And so you can see going all the way back to 2012, and if you went all the way back to 2001, there's only one year that our company was ever flat from a revenue growth perspective, and it was 2008, 2009. And there was a giant global recession that we actually endured very, very well. You can also see that profitability is another goal of ours. We not only feel that profit's a good thing for a business, but it also is what allows you to be stronger and more resilient in tough times. So we've never had a layoff in the history of Simpleview, and no reason to believe we ever will, because we always have this reserve to dive into. We can also use that and deploy that against big projects or R&D initiatives where necessary. And so while we fell just a bit short of our goal, we set high goals for ourselves and do what we can to achieve them. And from an EBITDA margin perspective, it's not a matter of us trying to drive maximum profit out of the business all of the time. You'll see that for 2018, we were 19.7%. And in 2012 and 13, we've been as high as 25 and 30% profit margins. Now, at 30%, we're probably understaffed and driving people a little too hard. We recognize that. And we'd love to be there again if it was also achievable through a good work-life balance. But this kind of 20% is what we're always kind of targeting and going for. And we can get there in a lot of different ways. To get an idea of where our revenue comes from, this breaks it down by product. And so starting left to right, you can see that our CMS and creative products and services drive the majority of our revenue. But it's followed as a close second by our digital marketing products and services. So again, this is another area where we feel the European customer base we can grow into. This is search engine optimization, paid media management, conversion rate optimization, marketing automation, content creation, basically anything that you can think of that might be an agency-like services or something that your customers are spending digital media dollars on. We've got a department that does nothing but that. CRM, again, it's a little bit misleading because CRM pushes more profit than digital marketing does, but CRM is what we refer to as our DMS. I'll share a little bit more about that in a moment. And then some more fledgling examples would be our destination travel network, Basically, we run a call center that sells advertising on our customers' websites to their members and partners. Now, you guys have done a lot to create a tool set that allows your customers to sell the advertising themselves. We do all the work of selling the advertising, billing it, reporting on the metrics, and then having a revenue share with our customers. So our customers get about 50% of the revenue right off the top. We do all the work. And then oftentimes they reinvest their revenue share back to other products and services that we offer. So it's a real synergistic kind of a program that we have called the Destination Travel Network. And then kind of the last three would be other, most of which comes from our summit. Visit apps, which, like Zarista, is a consumer-facing app product through an acquisition that we did in 2017. So we now have the ability to build any kind of app. We realized when we bought that the idea of listings, offers, and events in an app when you already have a responsive website is sort of silly and redundant. But we're also selling things like beer tours, walking tours, contests, promotions through our app platform that we think there's a lot of runway for us as well in growing that. And then finally, Barberstock, who I mentioned before, is a digital asset management platform. So, the idea that our revenue comes from a lot of sources, much like profit, is another area that allows us to be hyper-competitive and very, very resilient. So any given competitor who springs out of the woodwork with, say, a new DMS, number one, to really compete with us, they have to have a fully integrated CMS, much like you guys do. But if we choose to, we can ratchet down the price of the DMS to sell the CMS project and vice versa. Again, and we can do that competitively over time as well. So that just gives you some idea of kind of how we're separated from a departmental perspective. And then also for 2018, it was a strong year of new customers. I think the video that played in the front end, we added 55 new customers to our now 900 customer base. I think it's actually 600 now. Didn't we go from, or were we 600? Oh, we were 600 now. Okay, so yeah, we're close to 1,000. But through the effort of like Kevin's team on the new business front, we added all of these new customers. Some big ones for us were San Antonio and Charlotte, who had run a competitive CRM product called Ungerbach, which is far more prevalent here in Europe and internationally. But we won San Antonio, which was an Ungerbach conversion. And Charlotte was as well, right, Kev? And then also Visit Oslo. On the convention bureau side, they became a customer. So using our CRM to sell to meeting planners. And then these two are interesting, and it's an area where we see the company potentially growing. And I'm getting ahead of myself, but it'll allow me to move quicker through slides later down the road. Wild Horse Pass Hotel and Casino is just outside of Phoenix, and they are a resort casino. They have 2 18-hole golf courses and an auto racing track on property. They went out and looked and found who the biggest DMO agency or software provider was and came back to us. And when they called, they said, we just registered visitwildhorsepass.com because we see ourselves as a destination and we want to market ourselves like a destination. So it opens up a whole new market for us, and we're actively pursuing opportunities with resorts, casinos, but one and the same, and certainly large attractions. Basically, we have the capacity to serve them just as we do our existing customers with the tool sets that we have. So that was a big one for us. I think they called in December, and the deal was closed by the end of the year. And it may be the biggest contract we signed in 2018, if not the biggest, very close to it. So really important just to show that we're looking to grow beyond just the DMO and CVB space. Globalization, and one thing too, this is a 2018 goals recap, but when we did this for 8 hours in Tucson, so if you're getting bored now, imagine how you'd feel 8 hours from now, we walked away with a pretty crappy readout on what our 2019 goals were. But when we got back to the office, we went back and looked, and most of our 19 goals are just an expansion upon our 18 goals in one way, shape, or form. So in 18 and kind of continuing into 19, we have a goal of globalizing all of our products. So that means making sure we have multilingual support in every one of our products. We're at different phases for different products right now, but getting everything to that point is an ongoing goal. And then having a marketing, sales, and operational support plan to support customers on every continent is also very important. And this gives us a huge jump start working with you guys, obviously. So you're a marketing, sales, and operational support plan all baked into one. No, I'm kidding. But operationally now, and we talked about this when I was here in November, as we get to learn each other's products and services better, we now have a 19-hour window that we can provide support in. So we're nearly, as Richard says, the sun never sets on Simpleview now, which is, I think, a great way to put it. And so, again, we'll be able to support each other's products and services better. I mean, today, we have, obviously, customers in Norway. We have customers in Dubai, Prague, Reykjavik, Australia, Malaysia, Guam. We're servicing them all mostly out of Tucson and Pittsburgh right now. And so we have people who are getting on the phone at 2 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock at night. Once we can spread that load a lot better, then obviously we'll be able to serve more people in a different way. And then, of course, legal compliance, that references the GDPR stuff again. Also, from a globalizing all products perspective, we're strengthening our relationships with people like IMEX, ICA, TTRA, and AIM, which is the Asian Pacific Incentives and Meetings event. So I think the slide Kara said that we attended 100 trade shows last year. And so, in many of those cases, we had people from the U.S. traveling, and actually we do next week as well. Kevin will be in Frankfurt. But having new people here who can help us attend those events and represent one global brand is going to help us to leverage that investment even further. Marketing plan, again, we hired Talicia on the new business side to help us in driving a better marketing platform across the whole portfolio. Sales, we hired Rebecca Berriochoa. She's the Director of Business Development in Latin America. She's based in Mexico City. So now with resources here, in Norway, in the U.S., in Canada, in Mexico, we've got a great opportunity to continue kind of our global expansion. And then operational support, as I mentioned, we're doing what we can, and we have done what we can to try and leverage people at odd hours from the U.S., but now we'll be able to work more fluidly together to make sure, as we say, the sun never sets. GDPR, and then the EU general, it was funny this morning, someone emailed me a link from Tucson.com, which is our local newspaper website. I click on the link and it says, we have identified that you are in the EAA, is that right? And for legal reasons, we cannot display this website. So we need to make sure that never happens to our customers. And GDPR and keeping up with all these regulations is super important. And in fact, when Eric, probably a year and a half ago, started rambling on about GDPR, I was like, it's just a fad and it's crap that's going to go away. I'm not going to pay any attention to it. Luckily, he ignored me and made sure that we're GDPR compliant, which puts us in a great position against our competition because there's actually a database that you can search for companies that have certification. We're one of them. Several of our competitors are not. So good job, Eric, for not listening to me. And then again, mergers and acquisitions. We set out at the beginning of 2018 to find one or two big acquisitions or mergers of companies that had more than $3 million in revenue. We're also looking at our product roadmap and making decisions about whether we should buy somebody, build something, or partner with someone to leverage our customer base. And then, as I mentioned, we're also looking at adjacencies in hotels, convention centers, attractions, etc., who can consume our products and services. Again, on the buy, build, partner side, we know that our customers are asking for some new technology in one way, shape, or form. So our default position as a group of 100-plus developers and engineers is to build it. We can build that. That's easy. Of course we can build that. That's easy. And that's our leaning as well. If we can build it, let's build it. But if we can't, or there's a faster avenue to maybe buy a company that already has that technology or has a customer base that we would like to grow into, then that's probably another thing for us to look at. And then kind of right in between, or really our second mode of operation, is there a partner? With 900 DMO customers all over the world, there are companies building point solutions who are calling into our customer base, and more often than not, especially in the US, they tell them, oh, are you integrated with Simpleview? Who's Simpleview? Well, if you don't know, you should probably call them first. And so probably once a week, I have someone calling to say, hey, will you sell our product for us? Or, hey, can I partner with you to sell your product? I'd say 2 out of every 20 get to a point where we do end up integrating and selling their product on their behalf. AudioEye's one of them, Acton's one of them. And if you think about it from their perspective, they're trying to pursue a bunch of different verticals because maybe their product is applicable to a really, really wide audience. If they can partner with us and we can say, hey, let's create an integration so that our 2 products create some added value, 1 + 1 makes 3, then we'll sell it for you and service it for you. You don't have to worry about it. We'll keep half, sometimes more than half of the revenue, and we'll send you guys the check for the other 40, 50%. So again, it's a way that we've been able to grow and leverage the customer base that we have when we don't have the time or the knowledge necessary to build something specific. So those are things we want to keep our eyes on. Again, from this perspective, we had a lot of great success in terms of achieving our goals. Jackrabbit, I talked a little bit about them, but they're a company that we'd actually followed for more than 10 years. Another thing that I tell these people when they call is I say, oh, have you ever exhibited at our summit? And they say, no, what's that? And I say, and the fact is it's a good way for us to get to know them, for them to get to know us. Perhaps before we ever resell their product, we'll just become sort of engaged in a friendly way. So Jackrabbit was one of those who sold into our customer base. We didn't get a penny of it, but we worked in kind of an open environment to make sure their stuff worked with our stuff so we could get to know them better and, again, support what they were doing. And then in time, it just made a lot more sense for them to become part of Simpleview than not. We also added the Zarista product as part of that process, and in the end, added 135 net new customers, plus 93 shared customers, which grew our customer base at the time by that number. The next one, of course, and one of the things I'm looking most forward to about all being called Simpleview is I don't have to say tourism, media, Newmind, TELUS, NVG anymore. Because it doesn't roll off the tongue quite so well either. I did actually quite admire what you guys had done with tourism media when that happened, but we still could never figure out who was who or what was what. So anyway, this has been again a phenomenal experience so far. We've got your story here to the best of our knowledge, but basically that Newmind was founded in 1998, primarily in Liverpool. Delivered the first version of its DMS, similar to Simpleview's CRM product, to Visit Liverpool in 2001. Today, significant customers include Visit Scotland, Visit Wiltshire, and Marketing Manchester. TELUS, formed in 1992 and based primarily in Oslo, has a dominant position in the DMS market in Scandinavia. Significant customers include European Travel Group and Fjord, Norway. New Vision Group, established in 1988 and based primarily in Baldock, UK. NVG works with destinations and their customers to utilize digital marketing in order to increase visitor numbers and spend. It launched GuestLink in 2002, providing an integrated accommodation booking engine and management system for hotels and guest houses throughout the UK to sell more to the UK. And then I copied and pasted something accidentally. But I'm really looking forward to learning more about GuestLink. And as much as our histories overlap, we'll have to compare stories because we actually have employed the same salesperson at 2 different times in our life, which was Yeah, which was quite an experience. We'll talk about it later. But we nicknamed her El Toro Rojo, which in Spanish means the Red Bull. But yeah, so we've been on parallel paths for a very long time, all of us. And as much as, there was Simpleview and then NMG, there was Newmind, Telus, and NVG. I mean, the parallels, again, are just crazy. But then finally, the last one that we kind of knocked off, I shouldn't say that, I don't mean it that way, but we were able to finally realize truly a long-time dream of mine in bringing Christine Shimasaki on board for our industry, at least in the U.S., and the meeting sales side. This is the equivalent of LeBron James joining the Lakers. I probably should have found a football picture of some kind to put up there. But, again, she has extensive experience in working with Visit San Diego. She spent a number of years with Destinations International. She's recognized as a foremost expert in meeting sales for the convention bureau or conference bureau side of CVBs. And so she's really a one-man show. So we went from 250 to 350 to 351 probably in that deal. But Shimo is now on board to help us to grow our products and services and give us even better kind of brand and name recognition throughout the space. Partnerships, I've mentioned AudioEye and Barberstock. We also work with a group called Stackla. Some of you will hear a lot more about that tomorrow, but it's basically a social media aggregation engine with a lot of kind of geofencing as well as tag-based opportunities to put different kinds of media walls on your customers' websites, ours as well, of course. I know today you guys have different social walls that are probably powered by different APIs. This takes all the APIs from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. Who? I think he's saying Weibo, or else he's saying Weibo. There we go. Yeah, so Weibo. But again, super powerful platform that I think we could instantly deploy to your customers' websites in meaningful ways. And I mentioned Acton as well. Once there is one that's kind of up in the air, it's a strategic partnership and an investment that is an attractions and tours booking engine. We're waiting to see if they make it or not. We hope that they do. But again, we think that probably works extremely well with the Jackrabbit and or GuestLink products and services from a booking perspective. And again, not to go too far aside, but one of the things that we've recognized is that for whatever reason, the European market from a CVB perspective is far more receptive to booking than the US market is. I think the US websites tend to be more aspirational, inspirational. They live earlier in the funnel, whereas we see the UK websites and the European websites living further down into the booking process. We think there's a lot for US DMOs to learn from that, and then vice versa, a lot that we can bring to the customer base here as well. But some of these tools focus specifically on that booking opportunity. Some that are social, some that are obviously accessibility, some that are visual, and then the marketing automation piece that we've talked about already. We talked about adjacencies. Wild Horse Pass was a big one. We also have a partnership with a company called Event Booking that provides a convention center booking software. So a large group has to have move-in dates, set-up dates, move-out dates, etc. But we're now providing websites to those convention centers through Event Booking, and they're leveraging our CMS. And I mentioned Wild Horse Pass. So again, as we look at it, we think there are something like 2,500 DMOs in the US and maybe another 2,500 worldwide. Aggregate spend is around $25 billion, so we have that going for us, which is good. But, would we rather have 5,000 prospective customers or with hotels, convention centers, and attractions, 5 million prospective customers? And so as we weave our way out, we think that it's a good opportunity. And Event Booking has helped us there for the past few years. And this is one long-winded section, but we're getting close to a break, which is good. But one of our goals for 18, and it's always a goal, and including for 19, is to cross-sell, upsell, and support existing products. The key component to that is cross-sell. So one of the things that we're very, very aware of is that with our, call it 600 customers, and with Tourism Media's like 250 customers, that adds almost 50% more from a customer base perspective. But the average Simpleview customer spends $75,000 a year with Simpleview. The average Tourism Media customer spends around $17,000 a year with you guys. Well, how can we get them to spend more? It's by selling them digital marketing products and services, things like Act-On, things like Stackla, things like AudioEye. And we think that there's a big gap between 17 and 75. The market might not bear $75,000 a year per customer, but we want to see how far we can get up through that path. We also think that you guys have a ton of products and services that our customers can benefit from to even grow that 75 number pretty significantly. But we had a number of successes last year in that vein. Continue to grow our wallet share. Our goal was $21.5 million just from our existing customer base, and a go-get, meaning we needed to grow revenue from our existing customers by $5 million last year, and we were on target to finish ahead of goal. This slide was created before our retreat, but we finished ahead of goal. Greg Evans, who is our VP of Sales and Account Services, said, yeah, it's what we do. I know that the Account Services group is having their quarterly get-together tomorrow, but we'll also be collaborating to have sort of a sales retreat to find new ways to sell more stuff. But that's the point, is that we grew the wallet share from our existing customers by close to 25% last year, which is awesome. And we did that. We sold 26 Visit Apps projects. We had Barberstock did some cool stuff. We didn't sell very many of them, but I guess people use the platform a lot. Jackrabbit Book Direct, they added 34 new clients in 2018. Digital marketing products and services. We added 4 new digital marketing services last year. We hired 12 new people to that team, and we had 33 Act-On customers contracted by the end of 2018. So this is an area where we've invested ahead of the growth to make sure that that team's ready. And now we have experts in every one of those areas that I had mentioned before, from SEO to media buying to conversion rate optimization, content creation, all within that team. I think that team in total is about 40 people. We added 12 last year. Our experienced design department had 51 design approvals last year. We reorganized that department. In fact, we added a creative director. We also now have art directors, associate creative directors, and then our graphic designers. We won 7 notable industry awards for design last year, and that department's just exploding. I mean, I think the work I'm most proud of, just from a design perspective, is if you get a chance, check out Visit Oakland or Ski City USA. They're very much in the vein of using our tools, but they're built in ways that represent that destination and those brands in very, very unique ways. CMS, we launched 51 customers last year, completed 218 work orders, promoted 6 people. CRM, we had 44 CRM launches last year, 13,000 support tickets, and we're transitioning to a little different structure for our support teams. Selling more to CRM-only customers. So I think for you all, it's very common that someone is both a CMS and a DMS customer. Is that accurate? For us, as much as we talk about 600 customers, only about a third of those a little more than a third are CMS customers. So even though CRM, if you think back to those graphs, doesn't have the most revenue, it's the most widely used product. And so what we like to say is that whether we come in through the back door, which is CRM, or the front door, which is CMS, once we're in the living room, we want to sell you everything we've got. And so we had 11 customers who were CRM-only customers pick up our CMS product and service. And that's pretty common for us, is to sign a new customer as CRM-only first, to then sell them web products and services, which begets digital marketing products and services, which begets kind of destination travel network. So it's trying to get them all onto the same platforms. And so that equated to $750,000 in one-time revenue and $442,000 a year in licensing revenue just from CRM-only customers adding CMS. So does that make sense? Everyone tracking still? All right. Yeah, awesome. And then now we have a break. So, continuing off of, sort of our goals for 2018, one of the things that we've been working on now for probably 4 years has been an upgrade to our CRM platform. Now, I keep referencing the fact that Simpleview CRM, what you guys might call DMS, we're actually, for our new CRM, adopting the vernacular of destination management system. I think the way that we describe our platform is one that helps DMOs to manage their relationships with their hotels, restaurants, and attractions. In other words, their partners. You guys all do that phenomenally well. It helps them to manage their consumer inquiries or those emails that they might want to retarget an email to. But the thing that our platform has always done has been that it helps to handle a fairly specific meeting sales process. And so in the US, it's far more common, and you've heard me say it maybe too many times already today, but most of our customers are convention and visitors bureaus, CVBs. Here, it's far more common to have visitors bureaus, full stop, conference bureau, separate organization. And so our platform actually does both, but it hadn't been rebuilt in probably 7 years. Yeah, about 7 years. And really, the UI was very similar to how it was even 12 or 13 years ago. And so we're nearing a point now where we will launch, we didn't want to call it CRM 4.0. We were referring to it as the new CRM, but it will become Simpleview Destination Management System. And again, the goal over time is to find the best of what your products already offer and the best of what our products offer, because there's several areas where you're pretty far ahead of us. Multilingual in particular, you guys do a better job of. I think the guest link stuff and the transactional booking stuff, you guys do a better job of. So we'll find those areas where we can all work together. But I just want to give you a quick preview of our DMS. And I've got further notes to this, but this quote says, "Why walk slowly into the future when we can leap there now?" And the reason this is that we probably delayed the development process of our platform for at least 2 years. Scott Wood, our COO, who is more conservative than I am, said, look, we're not losing deals. We have something like 80% customer penetration. Why should we build a new platform? And the reason was that by the time you start building a new platform, and in this case it's going to take us 3+ years, by the time you find out you're behind, it's already too late. So we didn't have to build a new platform, but we wanted to make sure that we would be able to leapfrog our competition and be in a better spot going forward. So just a few things about this. It's been a 3-year process because we did a lot of discovery. We identified 500 features of our current CRM platform, 12 Simpleview to Simpleview product integrations, 20+ third-party integrations, and then we wanted to identify our most valuable feature sets. We spent 3,000 hours with our users groups in 2018 to discuss and evaluate those solutions. So, again, we've been a 4-person company, a 20-person company, a 50-person company, a 100-person company. And it wasn't until we hit about 150 where we really professionalized our product development team. We brought on Eric and other product managers, who aren't necessarily developers. They're people who are working every day with our customers to digest and help convey what it is we need to build. So those will be things that we'll be working with you guys on as well, is to grow those strengths on both sides of the pond. But really, our main goals were to create a streamlined user interface, to make it responsive, to use a modern tech stack, and then create more automation and visual queuing. Without my notes, I won't know what these animations are doing, but you can see that from a design language perspective, we are leveraging Google's material design, and basically bringing everything into a more modern age. We're now bringing like the contact bar to a place that's a little more reminiscent of something you'd see in Facebook or LinkedIn, for example, and then all of the other things that a user might do end up in the right panel. We're also bringing the power of personalization to the product, and so today our product has a pretty sophisticated reporting engine. We tout some crazy number of standard reports. Our customers can also take those standard reports, pull them down, change them to create what we call bureau reports. Our customers can take that bureau report and actually email it to another customer who can run that query against their database. So it does a lot of sophisticated things, but we also have this advanced search feature in our current platform that is really a glorified query builder, and it's really hard to see from where you guys sit, but we've made almost every grid within the new system accessible via this little sorting and filtering engine. So they can create their own views of all of their data. So if they want a list of, let's say they wanted a list of hotels with more than 20 rooms that have at least 1,000 square feet of meeting space, each individual user could start with the accounts grid and then create that view for themselves. And the next time they go into a dropdown, they can just pull up that view. They could pull up that view and go modify it. So there are a whole lot of things now that would typically be in our reporting engine that are now just part and parcel with the UI. The next one really just talks about sort of more holistic views. So going from something that traditionally for us has been, for those familiar with like Salesforce, it's been the blue, white, and gray, and variants on blue, white, and gray with tabs and things like that. Again, this is far more visual, but it's also bringing data and kind of BI types of interface to the user. So this is rolling out at our, basically we'll roll out at our summit at the end of May. We're going to market with kind of a minimum viable product, which means, we looked at our customer base and said, what are the most prevalent features to be able to migrate the most users, and that's the base case. And then we'll have an MVP plus 1 and an MVP plus 2 coming each quarter along the way. So, and really, like, this is by and large a whole new tech stack for our operations team. And we showed this for the first time at our retreat. To the extent that over time we start to use some of the same tool sets. Again, I told you all when I was here in November that tomorrow is going to feel a lot like yesterday. It's been 4 months and your lives haven't like completely been turned upside down. They won't be turned upside down by this tomorrow either. So as I say, over a longer period of time, we'll start to work on common tech stacks. But you guys are at the same point most of our developers are right now in terms of learning these new tech stacks. In fact, you're probably ahead of most of our developers because we've traditionally worked in Cold Fusion. Cold Fusion is a tag-based language that is really easy to learn, and it's super powerful, but it's a dying language. The fact that you guys have been an object-oriented programming language for a long time means that you have less to learn than a lot of our folks do. Does that make sense? Did any of those technical things I tried to say actually translate to something a developer would believe? Okay. Mostly? All right. Bill says I mostly made sense. But that's that UI. When we talk about, too, our CRM today and all of the internal integrations, it's also, we also have to now replicate all the things that it's currently integrated with. And so we will have an Office 365 integration, a full G Suite integration, including Office 365, Outlook, Google Sheets, Gmail. We have our Act-On integration, of course. And then in the top left, Cvent is more prevalent on the meeting side, but also integration to ICA's database, and a whole plethora of things. So we'll want to find out, those integrations that are most important to your customers as well, and then, again, expand upon our mutual platforms going forward. This is the tech stack. I mentioned material design. It's sort of the design language. SQL Server is not going to be new to anybody, and we're staying on SQL Server. And then these other things are just different technology pieces that are built into the system. I think Node.js is mostly front end. No? All right. That's the back end. All right. I'll stop. Okay. React on front end, Node.js on the server side. These other things, I don't know what they are. But hopefully for most of you, gives you an idea of where we're going. Bill actually had a whole section about our architecture, and I think, and we peeled it out for the sake of time. But the goal for us, again, this is a 2-year, 3-year, 5-year goal, is that we're working on common components. Today, our CMS is built in one tech stack. Our CRM is built in another tech stack. Our dashboard and BI tool is another tech stack, et cetera. And so if someone needs to build a login or authentication page, it's done 3 different ways. We should have one Lego block that is called authentication, and we should be able to plug it into anything we have. Visit Apps is another tech stack. Zarista is a different tech stack. Barberstock is a different tech stack. You guys, your CMS, your DMS, they're now different tech stacks. But so, and if any of those things contain perhaps like that grid layer, well, then we just pull like SV Grid or whatever we're going to call it, and we just bolt that into different tools. Again, this will take a very, very long time, and we're taking baby steps just now, but wanted to bring you guys up to speed on the direction that product was going. I talked about the rollout of that product, but again, it's a long time in the making and something, again, that's going to help to propel us forward. Kind of going back now into our 4th company-wide goal, it's around data-driven decision-making. Our goal had been to identify needs for business development resources, review pricing and packaging to address the needs of small, medium, and large customers, to strengthen our product roadmap, and then to look at our staffing and staff management. A few things that we were able to accomplish in 2018, we hired a new CFO, a gentleman named Keith McLam. He had experience at a software company in the education industry. They were 3 times as large as Simpleview, and this is his first opportunity to be a CFO. He's primarily focused on financial planning and analysis, so all of the things that the tax collecting agencies or, what it takes to write paychecks, that's not Keith's purview. Keith's purview is digesting all of the data that we have about all of our customers and all of our financials to help us make better decisions going forward. And we have a lot of BI resources today who we're looking to leverage. So, perhaps some of you will be tapped, but we're going to create a BI task force, which will be, people from each department where we can get together. They will translate like interesting questions from their departments, and then that team will go out to try and find the data that helps to answer that question. So it's really becoming a lot more consultative to ourselves because we have the resources to be able to do it. We have one person from the Jackrabbit acquisition who has a lot of experience in that area. We hired a dedicated data analyst who will work with our current analytics team to evolve into a more data-driven agency. And then our sales department has developed a departmental dashboard with the help of our digital marketing team to measure our effectiveness as a department as well as with individuals. And in fact, one of the people who was an account manager is now an account strategist, so he'll be looking into customers' implementations and trying to find out where there are opportunities for either them to do a better job or for us to find something that we haven't cross-sold as prevalently as we would like and sell it back into those people over time. So again, this goes back to the idea that this data-driven decision-making goal has been on our list probably, this will be the 4th year. It's another one of those aspirational things that we just always want to do a better job of. And in time, and Richard and I have talked a lot about this, with these 900 DMO customers, the data exhaust, the footprint that we're creating, and the ways that that can be leveraged to the benefit of our customers and monetized is incalculable, really, in terms of when you look at what we have. I think we looked at it not too long ago, and if you were to look at just the traffic footprint of all of our customers' websites combined, it's bigger than TripAdvisor. And so, we're this big, even as big as we now are, and TripAdvisor is this big, but we generate more travel-related web traffic than they do today. So it's something to think about. What are we doing with all of that right now? Nothing. So it's an opportunity. Yeah, we're collecting it. That's a good start. That's right. And then, again, kind of an ongoing goal is to improve communication from the top down. We had long aims to formalize our strategic plan, create systems and processes to plan and monitor staff management and development, and create systems to monitor and report on KPIs. As far as the strategic plan goes, we changed that goal a little bit, and it will be informalizing the strategic plan, because for 3 years in a row, I've never been able to show up in January with a nice, well-written plan for us all to follow. I think part of the reason for that is things are changing so fast. I mean, you look at our goals from the beginning of the year in terms of new products, onboarding different partnerships, merging with different companies. I couldn't have told you at the beginning of 2018, here's exactly what we're going to do, and here's exactly how we're going to do it. Things evolve so quickly that putting it on paper really would be a waste of time. And so instead, we've focused on what we can do, and we have a monthly, what we call our operational leadership team meeting. So our senior leadership team is organized of all of the people who have a CEO, CFO, CTO, basically CXO, plus all of our vice presidents and our managing directors from all over the world. That's our senior leadership team. The next level of people who are responsible for departments, that's part of our organizational leadership team. And so, some of you in the room will be joining that and be part of those monthly calls. We have consistent staff meetings every other month. How many of you guys were able to join the call last week? Yeah, a few of you. We moved it earlier in the day just for you. So for those of you who didn't join, I'm pretty disappointed in you. No, but I'm just kidding. But it's an opportunity every other month just to give you this kind of an update, certainly not this detailed. It's maybe half an hour, 45 minutes. You can ask questions via the go-to meeting. But we are also recording them, so if you can't watch it at that time on that day, then you can just get caught up real quickly. There's a weekly HR email that will start to go out more widely. Bear with us when it says, don't forget, there are donuts in the break room. That may or may not apply to you, but we'll try as best we can to call out, hey, this is Pittsburgh, this is Denver, this is Tucson, this is Liverpool, this is Oslo. But there will be some of that still in there. A bi-monthly HR newsletter. And then sales continues to carry the charge to work closely with all key departments, CRM, CMS, digital marketing, because they can't do what they need to do without your feedback and input. And so, again, the account managers are those closest to the customer, so we need to create that hub and spoke model, and there has to be consistent communication back and forth. So those are some of the things we're doing. Again, customer-facing and internal communication. We made a lot of progress in that we have quarterly newsletters for our most prevalent products. If you get a chance, our DM team does the Layover Live. It's a weekly video where they take one topic that's out there in the digital marketing universe, and they create probably a 3 to 5 minute video, just their commentary on whatever that tech trend might be. It's pretty cool. Our product education team has weekly, monthly, and quarterly emails, as well as our monthly insider. These are all different emails that you probably want to subscribe to keep abreast of what's going on, or at least what we're telling our customers. And then again, digital marketing has quarterly trainings for account services to better educate the team on new and existing services. So again, a lot of communication is really the goal. I don't think we'll ever get to a point where we can communicate too much or enough, but just to give you some perspective on what we're pushing out, it's up to you guys to consume it. And then also, as part of our goals is just always evolving, and this was part of that data-driven decision-making, but creating systems and processes to plan, monitor staff management and development. This will probably take at least until the end of 2019 to roll out to you guys, but we have really subscribed to an organizational tool set called Sophia. And basically, we want to take every role within the company and create a proper job description, but also skills matrix and career path so that people know, okay, I'm a Dev 1. What does it take to become a Dev 2? I'm a Dev 2. What does it take to become, maybe I want to move over to product. What does it take to be a product engineer? But then also through this Skills TX, you'll each be able to do a self-assessment so that you can get an idea of here's where I am. I'm overqualified, I'm underqualified for my current role. What are the steps I need to take to get that next role, if that's important to you? It's also super important to note that we don't necessarily expect everyone to be on this hard charge to climb the career ladder as fast as you can. We need people at every rung of the ladder and every piece of the organization, and everyone is equally valued. But we also want to provide people the flexibility to, as we grow, to grow into those roles that we're going to need in the future, and then also to even cross departments where necessary. And so this kind of database of all of those jobs will let people see, where they are and what it's going to take to reach the next level. And when we can track it pretty consistently. And then similarly, there's probably another slide that talks about this, but this LinkedIn learning platform that I'm referring to, it will allow you, your managers, and the company to see, which courses you're leaning into and what kinds of things you're learning about. So if someone comes in and says, hey, I noticed you guys are going to be adopting GraphQL. I want to be the guy who knows everything about GraphQL. We can say, well, have you used any of your PED to learn more about it? No, I haven't. Okay, well, what do you know about it? Well, I know everything, so I probably know a lot about that too. Well, no, can you show that you do? And we can go look and say, oh, look, they've actually taken 2 hours worth of training on GraphQL, which is actually a lot if you sit down for a whole 2 hours. But it's that kind of a thing to say, okay, Ryan, I want to be CEO someday. What do I need to do? We will have a career path that shows even that as a job. So everything you can think of will be in that platform and system. And then, again, the factors driving our change is just our own organizational structure. We had multiple titles for the same or similar roles across departments. And so we want to make sure that we can specifically identify what each of those roles are. Of course, rapid growth. We've reached a point of organizational maturity where it's really necessary for us to get our arms around organizational development a little bit better. Today, our career path model is somewhat unclear. Our development paths are a little unclear. And we didn't have a skills or competency framework in the past to be able to dig in and say, maybe a customer brings us a giant pile of code that's written in Fortran. We can go in and say, who in our company knows Fortran? Old guys are laughing. It's an ancient technology language, much like Sanskrit, that people want. No, I'm just kidding. But we can say, who knows Fortran, and pull that out and say, hey, like Steve, we need you to work on this project. Also within that competency framework will be languages. So we have a lot of people who are fluent in a lot of different languages. We're trying to become global, but we need a place to be able to collect that information so we can lean into those resources where necessary. And then similarly, I guess, our skills descriptions in detail from job to job were pretty inconsistent. So we're gathering that all together so that we can be better about it from a data-driven perspective going forward. And part and parcel with that are systems to monitor and report KPIs. Simpleview does have a destination, or we do use our own dashboard system, and so in time we'll give you guys all logins to that. So a lot of these graphs that we're showing around revenue, EBITDA, sales, retention rates, et cetera, everyone has access to that information. So again, it's part of being as transparent as we possibly can, but also helps us to hold ourselves and each other accountable, to our various goals. And then part of this as well is our brand update. So obviously, we need to integrate our brands. The reason for that is we want to present ourselves as one united team. And it will take a lot of effort on all of our part, just from a language perspective, to talk about each other as one. I can't even think of a great example right now, but obviously, as I said, the tourism media team. Well, it's the Simpleview Europe team. I just stole my own thunder. But we want to be able to speak about each other in this unified way. But also brand recognition by prospects. I mean, you guys have a phenomenal brand. We did our diligence, and, to a customer, people love working with this team, and you should be extremely proud of what's been built. And this is just becoming a part of this longer and broader history. But the Simpleview brand, if you think about it, like we said, we attended 100 trade shows last year. And, to our knowledge, I think the collective of this group may have been to 10 or 20. Not even that. And if you think about just the dollars that are being invested behind this brand, not only at trade shows, but in all of our communication, there's just a lot more brand recognition that we can generate, if we don't have it already, but that we can generate about one collective brand than we can about many. And the Simpleview brand is also extremely strong. It's the same. To a customer, people really respect our brand, and so it's probably the best one for us to pivot off of. And then clients continue to receive same experience, and over time they have access to more resources and knowledge. So that's the number one message for customers as well is, just as I had said to you all, and now I've said it again today, for them, tomorrow is going to feel a lot like yesterday. But when they look back a year or 2 years from now, they'll realize how much more we can all bring to bear than you guys could have individually or that we could have on our own either. From that perspective. I mean, a great example is, Trina and Kevin are presenting in Norway like this week. Now, of course, we won Visit Norway. Boo, no, a long time ago. But we got a chance to integrate with the DMS and to work together on that project. And because you guys continued to maintain such strong relationships with a lot of the DMOs inside of Norway, and because Visit Norway tried to kind of aggregate all those sites onto our platform, they're now recognizing that they want to split them all back out again. But you guys have held a strong relationship. We've held a strong relationship. And so now we have an opportunity, and Trina was just talking about it, to kind of unify the country again the way it was like 20 years ago on a single tech stack. So again, that's part of this, is just to make sure that, we put all of our energy and effort behind one message to grow that brand internationally and across the globe. It'll happen in a phased approach. So the internal basics, first will be email, then will be like signatures, and maybe there shouldn't be a comma there, but email signatures and logo usage. We'll get reminders out to clients in late April, early May. We'll update the key marketing elements, which are the website, the newsletter, and our social channels. And then there'll be ongoing collateral and communications, and then to internally assess and prospect via events. We'll start to do more with paid media and content marketing just to get that message out there. There again, I mean, the work that you guys have done with the magazine, what's it called? Something X? KX Magazine. I mean, that thing is awesome. We'd love to see that continue to go out, and I think we can kind of promote the Simpleview brand through that process as well. And these are just things that we're toying with right now. So, looking at the office locations, we'll all be Simpleview, but we're leaning towards Simpleview Europe. Obviously, the logo per se, or how we represent that, hasn't been visually fleshed out all the way. But in terms of, people accessing what today would be tourism media content, because our products aren't going to be unified, for many years to come. We'll be directing people towards a Simpleview Europe look, feel, and content, and then there will be simpleviewinc.com, and again, in time, we'll try and marry those together. So this is the direction that we're going now. There'll be a lot more talk about that tomorrow in our strategy sessions, but it's part of our 2019 goal is to get this all grown together. Which leads to 2019 goals. And as I said, 2019 is really a continuation of 2018. I've said to people that we really need to digest all of these acquisitions and mergers, which if you want a really gross analogy is basically consuming all the nutrients and then excreting all the waste. Now, from a people perspective, we don't foresee there being any waste. As I've said, in the past, several of these kinds of events that we've had, we've never intentionally lost a single person. And if you look back at SMI, which is probably the biggest acquisition we ever did from a people perspective, most of those people are still here today. So when I say that, it's just about, if we're spending X amount of money on hosting and you guys are spending Y amount of money on hosting, in time can we make that, 1.5 times that number instead of 2? All the different areas where we feel like we can shave cost, we'll be working through those things in 2019, and that'll be a big part of it. But our financial target for next year is $60.5 million in gross revenue and $12 million in EBITDA. Going back to those graphs from the early beginning, or from the beginning, I've now combined our 2018 to show what the target is for 2019. Now you can see there's a huge leap from 17 to 18, but that's the result of Jackrabbit Zarista as well as Tourism Media and 2Synergize all combined together. To see what that looks like just from a different business units perspective, we can see that we expect about $1 million in growth to come from Jackrabbit Zarista and $500,000 in growth to come from you guys in 2019. A very, very, very achievable goal in what we've seen so far. And then similarly, from an EBITDA perspective, how much of that do we expect to flow to the bottom line? It's about $800,000 versus $500,000 US before. So if we can add $500,000 in revenue and $300,000 in EBITDA, which means $200,000 left to invest, then we're all going to be very happy, and that's how we're going to get there. Similarly, if we were to combine our EBITDA margins for 2018, we see that we drop a bit below Simpleview's historic norm, but for 2019, with some tweaks here and there, and primarily growth, we can get to what we consider a new normal, and ultimately, and we'll talk a little bit about how, achieve this $60 million in net revenue number. And again, you can never cost save your way to growth. It's just not possible, right? And so, the more we grow, the more investment we can make, the more people we can hire, the more customers we can service. And as we went through this process, I joked with Richard, you could tell one of the cultural differences just in how our attorneys worked with each other. And the way I put it was that it was ascots versus bolo ties, or kind of cowboys versus I don't know what they would be. But I think that this company has done a phenomenally good job of being very structured. I mean, you have far more structure than we had when we were your size. Your products are much better buttoned up and buttoned down than ours were when we were your size. But if we can inject a little cowboy into that, then we can grow a lot more quickly. So, and we can also learn from the tried and true and steady aspect that comes with maybe 2,000 years of history versus a couple hundred. Hope you got that all on tape. I have no idea what I just said. So, and then of course we see two Synergize growing into that as well. Again, from a staffing perspective, you can see that in 2018, we talk about the fact that we're around 350. We were close to that. But for 2019, we don't expect this growth to come without any additional staff. So we have open requisitions today for new staff. In fact, some of you have probably been here less than 4 months. Raise your hand if you've been here less than 4 months. Yeah? So at least 3 of you. So we're well on our way. But we intend to add staff here in the UK as well as in Oslo. We'll be adding people in Denver and Santa Fe, where Jackrabbit Zarista reside, and we'll be adding people in Tucson as well. Again, you can see that as we've grown revenue, we've consistently added people. Again, proportionally, that's something that we're always looking at. I think it's important because as we've grown over the years, people have said, especially our existing customers, well, if you keep growing and growing and growing, you're going to get so big that we as a customer don't matter or you can't service us. But our employee to customer ratio today is the best it's ever been if you look at it from a customer perspective. So I don't know if Billy can do this one in his head, but if you took 900 divided by 350, I'm going to say 2.5. Yeah. But basically, we have, 2.5, we have a staff person for every 2.5 customers that we serve. And that number has gone from, 4 to 3.5 to 3 to 2.5 as we've grown. So staff is a huge part of telling this story to our customers because they are going to be afraid that now tourism media / Simpleview has gotten far too big to care about our little, $10,000 or $15,000 a year budget. But the fact is we're better suited to serve them and will continue to be as we grow. So that's the goal. And it looks like we'll be 377 employees by this time next year. And then from a financial target, we're going to reach that through sales to existing customers. Again, how close was I? 0.57. Oh, yes. I'm getting better. So sales to existing customers. So again, this is cross-sell, upsell. This is the area where, again, I think there's a ton of potential for us to fill that revenue gap with the existing customer base. We'll continue to look at acquisitions and partnerships, and then new business, especially outside the United States. If you took our CRM platform, we work with 80 of the top 100 DMOs in the U.S. today. And so other than upselling them to our web products and services, there aren't that many big ones left for us to go get. However, we're not that well penetrated in Europe. Now we have phenomenal penetration in the UK. We'll be able to continue to grow in Scandinavia, but the whole of Europe is still an area that none of us have really gotten into. And so we'll be leaning into that with additional new business development resources, both here as well as those that we will hire under the traditional Simpleview brand to sell into the convention bureau space. That's another area, though, that even domestically, when Richard and I first got together and started talking, he said, wow, that's really interesting. You guys sell to conference bureaus. And we were like, how can you not? But really, because there's such a divide here and they're separate, it just gives us another opportunity to really double the number of customers we have fairly quickly with a combination of our tool sets. In fact, I think there's Visit Oslo and then what's the Oslo? Or not Oslo, Liverpool. Visit Liverpool and then what's... yeah.
Liverpool Convention Bureau.
Yeah. So Kevin recently pitched the Liverpool Convention Bureau, which is a customer that you guys hadn't yet touched, but now together we can go over more of those opportunities. So, and you were mentioning, Richard, are there others?
Yeah, with Cambridge and we're already your clients. So we go back with those, so it's cool to get the Edinburgh DMO.
Yeah.
We've already got the Cambridge DMO, but Edinburgh is more minor, it's ECM.
Yeah. So that'll, that opportunity is huge. And again, from a new business perspective, that's where we're going to get the most growth. Of course, collaboration. We've had some early successes, and I've actually got 3 slides on it. But the IT team in particular they're already doing weekly stand-ups with full IT departments to discuss current projects, share thoughts on how to address problems, and taking some time to get to know one another, which is super important. They've started the sharing process for documents and how each other's environments are set up and operate. We've merged our email and collaboration subscriptions, so G Suite and Slack are now a merged license. Unfortunately, on the G Suite side, we got to go from you guys having it for free to now paying for it under a much bigger license. That would have been awesome. Yeah. Google wasn't allowing it. But G Suite and Slack were now all integrated. They started work on a global monitoring solution with nodes in each office, with monitoring and reporting, so others with a central dashboard can help jump into problems and add additional redundancy. Began to leverage DevOps for Elasticsearch, Logstash, Kibana, for tours and media developers to better parse and respond to logs provided by applications. And then we've started the process of investigating moving the TM hosted site to Microsoft Azure. So getting everything out onto the cloud and out of the physical racks. I mean, again, in that migration or that evolution, we've been through the exact same evolution as you guys. In fact, the hardware failure that you guys experienced, we talked about it actually before it ever even happened. We had the exact same thing. We spent tons of money on this hyper redundant storage array that had 2 of everything inside of it and could never go down. And then one day, the day we were leaving for Christmas break, we decided to do a configuration change. Thing went down, did not come back up. And so it was the same kind of 12 to 24 hours of thrashing. And we finally came to a point where we were internally able to discover something that their techs could not wrap their mind around. We said, okay, well, if we evoke this change, what's going to happen? The EMC people said, well, one of 2 things. It's either going to work or it'll never come back up, and now you'll have to wait for a new piece of hardware to be shipped in, for all the data to move over. You guys know that story. We cut the green wire, and it just all came back up, which shrunk the downtime we had, but it was probably the thing that made us realize we need to be in the cloud. We're not hosting this stuff ourselves anymore, and so we're working in that direction for the benefit of all your customers as well. Again, where you're at is exactly where we have been, and it makes all the sense in the world, especially as you're investing in that hardware. You get to a point where you're almost pot committed. It's like, well, I spent $300,000 last year. If I just spent another $100,000, then it would be this much better. But you get to a point where it's like, all that stuff, gone. But you get to use it for internal backups and things, so you'll have a lot of really nice hardware someplace. But we now have shared and trusted domains, both 220 Office and LAN.nm. We set up and staged using IPsec tunnels between our offices and data centers, and we started exploring options for global asset management and monitoring solutions. So from a global asset management perspective, it's having shared environment for at least our image serving across the world. That again will give us that much more redundancy and complexity. But the point is that from an integration perspective, the IT teams are already working really closely together. The accounting staff is working really closely together, and we'll just want to see that permeate throughout. We'll take steps in that direction tomorrow as some of the product teams get together, the sales teams get together, marketing comes together, et cetera. But we're well on our way to having a really integrated environment by the end of this year. And we'll continue that. Of course, we had the January tours and media trip to Tucson. We're here for this retreat, which has been a real treat for me, and I look forward to the next few days. We have a few people coming out to Tucson in April, and we'll be doing this pretty regularly, sort of a foreign exchange program between Tucson, Arizona, and especially Liverpool, back and forth. We'll have a cadre of people out for our summit in May. We'll be back here in June. And then August, we'll have accounting and HR come together in one place or another to perfect whatever progress we've made to that point. So we've already got this lined up. I think we'll get a lot more detail about these trips tomorrow. But having the back and forth is super important for us. And while I'm talking about the back and forth, so that I don't name drop to each of you individually, this is my third trip to Liverpool inside of 6 months, probably my 10th or 12th trip to the UK. I've been able to, and I've been to Oslo as well. But I've had a few golf trips, but one of my family's close friends is Jodie Whittaker. Nobody knows who that is. So I'll just shut up. Yeah. She's the new Doctor Who. So the first ever female Doctor Who. It turns out that she married an American who was born and raised in Tucson, who also was a friend of mine growing up, but a friend of my wife's. And so we came to visit her pretty often. She's now filming in Cardiff in Wales, I think, for a long duration. So anyway, we've got a good attachment to the UK. I always have. I love it here. And so hopefully you'll see us more often. My wife and kids were going to come with me this previous week, but we never got our act fully together. If we do, I'll bring them around and show you the fruits of my labor on that side. But with that, this is our last chance for question and answer. We've saved an hour, so and I have a lot more tickets. So, and if you have questions for Bill or Kara or Eric or Kevin or anyone else, feel free to ask them as well.
I don't need a microphone. Ryan, have you any thoughts on encouraging UK customers to come to the summit in Manchester?
We've been trying, so we actually have some free tickets, and we gave those to the account managers, and we've got a couple of people in the green. I think Trina, one from Visit Oslo. Yeah, one from Visit Oslo. I'm hoping that Visit Liverpool, Chris Brown's green, and we've got a few others out there, but I think it's the time and the travel cost is a bit limited. We're hoping to get it,
If we could, and then turn them into some case studies, so that the smaller customers in the UK can start to see how this might work for the smaller customers.
Yeah, I think Ryan, we talked about maybe not this year, but maybe next year, maybe the year after that, the European summit would be the way to do it.
Yeah, so we'd love to have as many of them out as possible. I think, just with this rollout plan, we might not have that much success, but we'll welcome them, no doubt. But as Richard said, we'll start to evaluate whether it makes sense to have a European one to maybe offset the U.S. one, in which case I think we could also get more Europeans coming to the U.S. one and perhaps some from the U.S. coming over for the European one. So identifying those sort of strengths and weaknesses on both sides is going to be huge, I think, for customers to even learn from one another. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea. We're also looking at, there's a guy who has founded sort of a European digital think tank. We met him several years ago. It didn't make sense for us, but I also think we could potentially become a bigger sponsor or a part of his conference so that we're having like the Simpleview Summit bolted on to the DTTT, I think it's called.
Yeah, well, essentially that's what we did when we did our knowledge exchange conference in 2014 here in London, and Digital Tourism Think Tank ran that for us, and that was successful. So that's where the KX original brand came from, that conference. But we didn't do it right. So yeah, he brings a lot of content.
Yeah, it's interesting, Ben. I had a dinner about 2 months ago with the incoming Minister of Tourism for the country of Mexico, and actually had dinner in his home where he has not just a corner, but probably from the edge of the stage to the wall, dedicated as a shrine to the Beatles. He has a wax John Lennon that he made me go pull the tiny hairs on its arm. It was really creepy. But he's got pictures with Yoko Ono and all this stuff. And so I said, well, if we can bring together someone from Visit England and someone from the U.S., and you, as the Minister of Tourism for Mexico, for sort of an international CEO summit, would you come? And he said, as long as it's in Liverpool, I'll be there. So trying to work on those bigger kind of collaborative opportunities, we're all for. So, do you want your tickets? Yeah. All right. You can still you can win for sure. Any other questions? Am I a Beatles fan? We were talking about that last night. It never really struck me the way it did a lot of my friends. My wife is a huge Beatles fan. I need to listen to more of it before it sinks in, I think. So.
Get the opportunity to get
Yeah, exactly. I'll have it driven in my head, but yeah. So, yep.
Like how many sites do you deliver like each year?
How many websites do we build each year?
Yeah, build and release.
Yeah, so on the CMS side, it's about, the recent pace has been about 50 a year. Yeah.
And also, like, do you conduct like competitions for your staff members to bring in their own talents?
Do we have competitions?
Yeah, like bring in their other talents than work.
Yeah, so like our Hacktoberfest, that's a competition of sorts. But we don't necessarily do competitions for internal product development,
Okay.
if that's what you're referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, we don't really in that vein. But we encourage innovation across the entire company. I mean, we have something that we call Listings Pro. So just like you guys, if someone clicks on accommodations or restaurants or attractions, we have a directory, so to speak, that comes up with their address, link to their website, photos, descriptions, amenities, and all that stuff. Listings Pro was really an overhaul of the UI, and it was done across several departments to improve that product. So all of our innovation isn't wrapped up inside of our product department. It kind of goes across, but yeah, we've never had a competition for that stuff. Might be a good idea, though.
Yeah, Brian, can you say something, this isn't a question, but in terms of the opportunity, if you like, to represent company to our clients more along the lines of a digital marketing company rather than software company. And I think that's a change that you've gone through yourself, and I think this is the biggest opportunity for us. But it's a one-time opportunity. So we'd love to hear your thoughts and why that's important.
Yeah. I don't know that it's a one-time opportunity. I mean, you never get a second chance to make a first impression, as they say. However, I'd rather, I mean, among all things, I'd rather fail fast, try more things quicker and see where we go. But to your point, we're actually in the middle of reimagining our own brand because we got to a point where, that original logo that you asked about was, DMS, that's the term I'm going to use from now on, but DMS, CMS, and digital marketing. We got to a point in our pitch where it was like 100+ slides talking about each of these kind of internal pieces to that core philosophy. And we'd gotten so far away from it that we really needed to revisit, well, what is Simpleview, period? Then from that, what are its 3 primary components? Then within those, maybe 3 key points. So our whole deck should be no longer than 30 slides. That's the way I'm envisioning it. But in that process, I think we'll develop the key messaging, not only to re-educate our customers, but to further educate the European customers on what Simpleview is all about. And one of the challenges is that it's a super, super unique animal. There are a lot of digital agencies out there. There are a lot of CRM software companies out there. There are a lot of CMS software companies out there. But it's exceedingly rare in any industry for one company to be all three. So we're continuing to work on exactly what that messaging should be. But yeah, and then we'll get it out to everybody all at once. I think we're looking at it as a brand manifesto, we're calling it. So what is the overarching theme for the company's existence? And then, like I say, breaking it into these 3x3 chunks that'll make it easier for us all to say what we do. We even created like an elevator pitch. It's not perfected yet, but inside of 2 sentences, what does Simpleview do? I can't recite it right now because it takes me apparently 4 hours. But yeah, I think that messaging is going to be part and parcel with getting it out to everyone out here.
Well, I do think it's a unique opportunity for ourselves and our clients. Both NVG and Newmind and Telus have all been, rightly or wrongly, have always been predominantly thought of as a software company. And now and again we do lose out to the more sort of perceived as the more creative digital agency. And I think by presenting ourselves newly as Simpleview, but actually banging that drum of we're a creative digital marketing agency first and foremost, and the technology is a given. We're not downplaying it, but we're coming across like that. So that's a challenge for all of us to really learn the language and actually make good on that promise. So if we're going out saying that we're a creative digital marketing agency, focused on the destination sector, but we also have to walk the walk and actually be able to deliver on that. That's the most important thing. So there's a lot of learning around that. But when I say it's a one-off opportunity, I would hate for the fact that we go out as Simpleview and then everyone just says, oh, Simpleview is just another software company. That would be the missed opportunity. So
yeah, we've focused heavily on it, and we've made a lot of adjustments along the way. I would say that we were, quite fairly categorized as a software company. We jerked way over to the digital agency side at one point. And what we found living way over there were that the budgets were much bigger, but you had a hard time showing the customer where the rubber met the road. And so they weren't very stable as budgets. And so now we swung back, and now we feel like we're in a really good middle ground. And to your point, I mean, who are my designers? Who are the designers in the room? Graphic designers? Make stuff pretty? Yeah. I know Andy has that background as well. But when you lose a deal because they want to work with an agency that has better creative, and then you look at your websites versus the utter crap that an advertising agency produces, then you want to scream, right?
Yeah, it's
but the
incredibly
thing is,
frustrating, but you don't want to lose the deal.
Right.
Because often these clients, they go down that route.
Yeah.
A year later, they come back anyway.
Yep. They come back anyway because when it's said and done, the software turns out super, super important.
Well, it's got to work for them, hasn't it?
And these guys are wielding any random tool versus, what we've spent 20 years iterating upon. Yes, ours is going to work better than theirs does, but and Kevin faces this constantly, right? I think that our new messaging will be best able to emphasize the power of having all three under one roof. And today, you guys obviously represent the software side really well. And it's just a matter of, making sure people recognize that those resources are now available, even if those resources are coming by and large from the U.S., and then we can backfill the positions needed here and in Oslo to support more of that stuff. So, and I mean, we talk about it too constantly. We want to get out of the IT closet and into the boardroom. We want to be out of the IT budget and in the marketing budget.
No, because we're stuck in the IT budget.
That's right.
And the IT budget is the bit they want to make either fixed or even depress each year. Yeah, the marketing budget is
Listen
the
to us cry about paying for G Suite, right?
Well, quite.
Your job is to identify commodities and drive their price to zero. That's the IT manager's job.
Yeah.
And so the marketing director's job is to take the M in the middle of DMO and spend 50% of their budget on stuff every single year. So yeah, so I mean, getting over there makes a ton of sense.
Well, the marketing is the vanity metric, isn't it? Yeah, the DMO will be seen for what he's spending on marketing, not what he's spending on IT.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's a pivotal opportunity for us, and we're really keen to work with Cara and Talisha to get that message out there, because we do a lot of really good creative work, and we're not actually known for it. So this is the opportunity for us to get known for it, and then build from there.
Yeah, I mean, for us too, I mean, you know, from the slides that were up there, somewhere around 2/3 of our net revenue comes from software, and probably 75% of our profit. So again, the investment that we've made in digital marketing is relatively new for us as well, to be able to push that agency side harder, but not change who we are and try and compete with Madison Avenue or whatever street on London that lives for that side of it. But people are coming to recognize that the power of data combined with marketing is actually far more powerful than the prettiest piece of advertising that sits in a magazine somewhere. So we're in a good spot, and you couldn't be more correct in that we need to take advantage of this opportunity. There's low-hanging fruit, I think, on the Stackla, AudioEye, and SEO sides of the shop, and that's easy stuff for us all to pick up and learn. But then as we go forward, it's how do we get into those bigger campaigns and create like campaigns, contests, and promotions that leverage our CMS, our DMS, our marketing automation, and our creative talents, you know, to get more of that budget. So
yeah. And I think the experience design concept is really exciting.
Yeah.
And you know, we can I can definitely see tenders coming up where we'll want to leverage that as a concept and be really leading on that and bringing Lisa and some of her team over to front those pitches.
Yeah, so there's some of this stuff that people in Tucson don't even know yet, but we pulled up the genesis of that logo, and it's a 13-year-old wire-bound brochure that says we are CRM, DMS, and what we called IMS, Interactive Marketing Services. And it was, I mean, we can almost repurpose that. We've just gotten so far afield from that. But one of the things that you guys are the first to hear would be that we are CMS, DMS, and then we will be XDM, which is the marriage of XD and DM into the agency-like services piece. So we don't know if it'll be like X, like 2 Ds and an M, but again, the experience design piece is to draw out the creative side from an agency, and then the DM is the science of the marketing pieces that go in it. So, but again, it'll all coalesce with you guys probably right around our summit.
Yeah.
Hi, you mentioned that you don't really do much online booking-wise in America, but I wondered, sort of, do you work with other booking agents at the moment?
We do. I mean, one of them was Jackrabbit, obviously, and it was more of a referral engine. That concept's kind of appealing to us because, especially in the United States, hotels pay a bed tax, and that's what goes to fund the CVB and DMO. So they would much rather have the booking happen on their own website than on some third-party website. But then there's another group in the U.S. called ARES, who has their own booking engine that we integrate with. In fact, we told them that we'll still be friends with you, even though we're going to compete with you. And then we're seeing a little bit more like Booking.com start to show up on websites, which I know you guys have, a lot of knowledge about and pretty close relationship with. So I'd say those are the three. Can you guys think of anyone else that? Expedia. Oh, Expedia. Yeah. They've gotten pretty big as well. Yeah. So. Maybe. Do you mind? Right. This is good. Yeah.
Yeah. We have been pretty much in the market the same number of years, but you have grown a lot than we haven't.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts about why that happened? Oh yeah, you're cool.
Yeah.
Cowboys.
Yeah, Cowboys. No, I have given it a little bit of thought, and just really different market dynamics, I think, and especially funding mechanisms. So, again, in the U.S., they're generally funded by a bed tax, and almost every city has 3 different entities that are a lot like the visitor bureaus that are here. So they generally have a chamber of commerce, which is business to business within a community, and that's usually funded by a membership of some kind. They almost always have an economic development arm, which is focused on relocating businesses or helping businesses to grow within a community. And then they have a CVB. The CVB is the best funded of those 3 entities in almost every city in America. And not only that, but it is the Visitor Bureau plus the Conference Bureau's combined budget, which makes it even bigger. So I think a lot of it just has to do with the company, not us personally, but the company being born in the right place, just because of the way the funding mechanism works. We've struggled to understand this market from that perspective. And again, not until 2 years ago did I recognize the true difference between the Visitor Bureau and the Conference Bureau. The international customers that we're winning are on the Conference Bureau side because our DMS does something very unique for that. But everything else we do is done by Tourism Media very well. So I think there's that aspect, and we need to crack that code. But, and then you have some instances where, this was like 15 years ago, but Italy spent something like $7 million on a new destination website that never got off the ground, and they ended up throwing away. So there are pockets of incredible opportunity, but a lot of these customers, a lot of your customers, especially here in the UK, may have combined total budgets of like $250,000 or $150,000. So I think that's part of it. One aspect I would kind of throw out there, though, is that, from the very beginning, I had the benefit of, I was telling Tora this, being a jack of all trades, master of none. My background is in IT and accounting. I did a lot of sales in the early days. I did a lot of training and things when we were getting started. But I was really supported by the fact that Bill is literally one of the best programmers I've ever met in my entire life. Rich, in addition to looking like Richard Gere, is one of the best salespeople I've ever met. And Scott Wood, having been a Marine, is one of the best operations people I've ever met. So, and other people we've competed with, they've actually said, when I compete against Simpleview, I'm competing against all of you, and I'm just one person. So I know you guys have had a lot of collaboration and some shared leadership over time, but the fact that we've had that breadth, I think, has made us a lot stronger in the long run. So, yeah.
Hi, I've got 2 questions, but I don't want 2 tickets. That's all right. First one is, do you have any day one clients per se that you've had along the whole journey with you?
Yeah, Visit Tucson is the very first, and it's how we met Rich and we grew through the process. Scottsdale, Arizona, was a very early customer who, in fact, left us and came back. Fairbanks, Alaska, was number 3 or 4. And our customer retention rate is somewhere in the 95%. So we do have a lot of customers that have been with us for almost all 20 years.
Okay, cool. And do you think eventually we'll... Oh, sorry.
Oh, Santa Barbara is another one. Yeah, that came with Rich over to us. Yeah. So.
And do you think eventually we'll be able to bring our dogs to work? And how does that work for productivity?
So... Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll leave that to Richard. We won't enforce all of our policies on everybody. But I will say this: dogs to work is a more difficult thing to manage than people might realize. We've had dogs who are not potty trained. We've had people who are allergic to dogs. We've had dogs fighting each other, and so yeah. We had a picture up there. That's probably where you got it from, right? That's Travis, who was recently promoted to associate creative director. He's got the cutest tiny dog that he carries with him all day long, and that dog has never created a single problem. So it depends on Richard, and it depends on your dog. I think I would put it that way.
Who's the new employee with the ginormous dog that we saw on the HR email that went around?
Yeah, she's in accounting, I think, right? And she has a Great Dane. Yeah. He doesn't come to work. So. Yeah.
And now you have a hummingbird.
Yeah, we have a baby hummingbird rescue on someone's desk at the office. That's right. Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah. We also have a rat in our brand new building. That one's not a pet. We're trying to kill him. So, yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, all right. Anybody have anything else?
Is there any locations in the US that you've not being able to get your hopes into that you really want?
Yeah. Are there any destinations in the U.S. that we've not been able to win over? Philadelphia absolutely is one. Who else? Indianapolis. We're making good gains there. St. Louis. Yeah, they don't like cowboys there. Detroit is another one.
One you really want though.
Yeah.
Oh, the Eleanor. That's a good question.
Yeah.
What's your Eleanor, for destination?
Oh, right. Yeah. There's no one. I want them all. So I have a list. But yeah, those are the bigger ones that come to mind, I think.
But can we have a big hand for Ryan, please?
Thanks. Thank you.